welcome to another Zoom edition of City Talk. Needless to say, we're all broadcasting remotely from our individual cubby holes because of the COVID-19 crisis. I say needless to say, and yet I say it anyway. Say hello to our guest today, the Chief of Staff for Councilman Anthony Coghill, Blake Plavchak. Blake, welcome to the program.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
So I see you have an animal.
I do. I have a cat, and her name is Pirate. And, that's her favorite spot in the whole house.
Now, is that Pirate in honor of the Pittsburgh Pirates, or is that just a coincidence?
Well, it's just a coincidence. When she was a kitten, one eye wouldn't open. And so Pirate seemed like a fitting name, and it has since opened, and her eyes are fine.
But does she actually go hard?
Yes.
All right, good.
Absolutely.
I hope that happens before the end of the interview. That would be fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past her.
All right. So tell us about yourself. Where are you from, where you grew up, and how you came to become the Chief of Staff for Councilman Coghill?
Well, I'm born and raised in Brookline, and I still live here. So I've been in Brookline for my entire life, and went to Brashear High School. Then once I graduated Brashear, I went to Duquesne, and I did a lot of coursework at Duquesne where I studied rhetoric. And in my time there, I ran for the Democratic Committee for Allegheny County. Got a little.
I know all we political junkies know what that is, but go ahead and tell people who don't know much about politics what the Allegheny County Committee is.
So it's the formal organization for the Democratic Party in the region, and our responsibilities include helping neighbors understand how to vote, when to vote, where to vote, and then who the endorsed candidates are, who the candidates that sought endorsement are or were, and to work the polls on election day, pass out slate cards and basically support the Democratic candidates during the elections. And started doing that for a while. Came to know Anthony. A couple friends that I went to high school with were close with him and working with him as well. And our relationship kind of grew from there about 12 years ago.
And then what kind of background do you have to have in order to be the Chief of Staff?
Well, it depends. I think that's up to each council person and kind of what they look for in a Chief of Staff. I know with Anthony, it was important that he has someone who can kind of advise him on policy and help organize and structure his calendar and his schedule for him, work closely with his office staff, and someone who's involved in the community. So with Councilman Coghill, it's very important that we support our community groups, our community members, and that we really have a sense of who the people are and what it is that they need in the district. And being from Brookline, I'm pretty familiar with, at least I hope I am, all of our residents and some of the things that are the issues that we should be addressing. And the other members of our staff are, live in Carrick or, born and raised in Beechview. So we try to keep it, close within District 4.
Yeah, when we spoke before about doing this interview, I mentioned that, and I know it's a citywide problem, but litter seems to be a problem that never goes away in Pittsburgh. Maybe nowhere else in the country either, for all I know. I don't know. What that may not be the biggest problem on the agenda, but what, if anything, can we do about that?
Yeah, well, I think one thing that we've been seeing across the city during the sort of pandemic has been a little bit more trash everywhere. I know that a lot of the community groups have had to pull back on some of their events. So a lot of beautification teams have had to kind of postpone or rethink how they do community cleanups. Thankfully, in a few weeks, we have the Garbage Olympics coming up across the city, and neighborhoods across the city are encouraged to register and try to compete with other neighborhoods to see who can collect the most garbage and debris. And I know the councilman is going to be volunteering and helping out in Carrick. I'll be helping out here in Brookline, and another one of our staff members is going to be working in Beechview, and we're going to try to have a little bit of an inter-office competition to see, which community can pick up the most garbage. But we always encourage people to go out and try to pick up litter when they see it, and to always throw garbage in our city trash cans when they're near.
Is there some allegedly neutral party that walks around and counts the garbage bags in each council district and decides who wins?
Yeah, so Department of Public Works will pick up all of the garbage. So every community will designate a pickup spot, and they'll report back how much they get. Department of Public Works will collect all of the garbage and then give us a tally. And I think in this case, it might help if, you're chair of Public Works Committee, but we'll see.
It seems like there could be some skullduggery and chicanery in that, like people just getting trash together, and hiding it for weeks in advance, and then all of a sudden comes out that day.
I hadn't thought of that. Can you give me a second while I write this down?
All right, good. Your cat seems unimpressed.
Yeah, she's a tough nut to crack.
So remind me again, what is your degree in?
So I studied rhetoric at Duquesne, and rhetoric can be understood just as communication, argument, persuasion. It's at Duquesne, they take a very philosophical approach to it, and we ground our kind of understanding of that in a philosophy of communication. And it's something I honestly can talk about for a long time, but I can very easily get sidetracked. But the emphasis is essentially on how we communicate, why we communicate, and the ways that we can do so honestly, and with respect to all parties involved in communication.
So I assume that's serving you well in your current capacity.
I hope. I think so, right? Knock on wood. It's so far so good. But yeah, it's definitely something that I need to rely on, like that training and education sort of every day. Even if it's just something as simple as how we put together a Facebook post or announcement, we need to think about all of the audiences that we might be reaching and how we can deliver that so that the message is clear to all of the audiences.
We've lost Pirate.
Yeah, I think it's midday snack.
You also have an interesting hobby.
Yes, so I play miniature war games, and to sum that up, it's you basically get little tiny plastic or metal figurines, and you lay out a big table, and you put some terrain down, miniature houses, fences, fields, dungeons, and you measure and you move people, and you roll dice and you try to defeat and conquer another team. My specific interest is in World War II sort of era war games. So I have an American army with different armor and transports, and I have a German army with some different armor and transports, and they're both generally modeled towards like 1942 to 1944, and I try to keep the era around Normandy and D-Day, just because it's easier to make it historic. Because no true miniature war gamer doesn't like to make things historically accurate. So I'll try to replicate certain battles and represent what kind of units were in that engagement. So
are there sound effects involved?
Yes, absolutely. And if you're not making sound effects, you're not doing it right. But there are some really cool things you can do. Like you can get cotton balls and put them on top of a tea light, like one of those flickering tea lights. And you paint the cotton ball to look like smoke. And if you blow up a vehicle, you put the tea light there, and it looks like it's smoking and smoldering.
Now, is this you or you and other people?
It's me and other people. So thankfully I have a roommate who I play with. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to do this. But you play with other people, and I've gone to conventions, big gatherings of people where it's large games of 6 or 12 people on a side, and it's multiple 12-foot tables, and it's really an event.
Is there any chance the good guys could lose in these?
Always. Actually, in these games, it's more fun to be the bad guys because there's a lot of the play acting that goes on, and if you're playing as the Germans and you're not doing an accent, then you're not doing it. So.
Do you have a good German accent?
Oh no, it's atrocious.
Okay, all right, never mind. So how are you handling COVID?
I'm listening to a lot of music. I try to make a new dish or cook something new every weekend. I've been kind of experimenting with food like that, but I've been playing war games. I also play board games. I've been reading a bit, and just a lot of little ways that I try to distract myself and kind of pull myself out of the monotony. Over the summer, I've been going to Shenley Park to throw frisbee golf. I'm a big advocate and fan of frisbee golf. I got into it in high school because of a city school teacher who was a professional frisbee golfer, and
I did not know they existed. How about that?
Yeah, they have trading cards and everything. It's great. I watch YouTube videos of disc golf competitions.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you've got a much wider field than just Netflix, so good for you.
Yeah, I've got Amazon Prime, Hulu, Disney Plus.
Holy cow. So what kind of legislation have you been working on during the last short period of time, as they say?
Well, so September is National Recovery Month, and the councilman has been working on trying to advocate for some more awareness around issues related to substance use disorder. So one thing that we were working on earlier was a will of council to promote person-first language. It's language that helps to humanize individuals that suffer with a substance use disorder instead of stigmatizing them. One of the things that we find that's a barrier to people seeking help when it comes to their substance use issues is the stigmatization that they experience. And instead of referring to people with harmful or negative language, if we can focus on trying to rephrase and focus on an individual's humanity, it makes them more likely and willing to seek out help when they're ready for it and when they need it. And it helps them to reduce the harmful behaviors that they do engage in. But we're also right now kind of thinking about and considering what sort of reforms are appropriate in terms of policing, and we're working with the Department of Public Safety to try to consider what we can do to help make sure that our public safety is more responsive to the public.
Yeah, I was talking with Councilman Kraus earlier today about just the effort to restructure the police department as opposed to defund the police. That's probably a lot more complicated than it sounds, or maybe it isn't, but it's certainly, I would think, quite an undertaking.
Yeah, it's very complicated. And one of the things that we really are focused on is not creating more service gaps, because one of the things that has pushed us to where we are is that we are relying on our officers to do a lot of things that are they're not necessarily trained for or are a little bit outside their purview. And if we change the responsibilities for who handles that or deals with that, we want to make sure that we're not creating more service gaps and making everyone's job more difficult. So that's one of those real challenges that exist that I don't think you think about on an everyday basis unless you have to consider it.
So what do you're clearly all grown up, but I'll just finish the thought. What do you want to do when you grow up? I mean, this is a good job you've got now. Do you see yourself running for office? Would you like to continue in government behind the scenes?
Well, the thing for me is I really would like to do work that helps and benefits people. And I really love the job I have now because it gives me an opportunity to help people in my neighborhood, in the neighborhoods I grew up in and I played in. You know, I went to high school in Beachview. I played fall baseball in Carrick every year. And I'm incredibly happy to have an opportunity to help the people that I grew up with and around. And if the opportunity arises that I can continue to help people, of course I want to do that. So I'm just going to see where it takes me, where life takes me. I've trusted it so far, and I've done all right. So.
Awesome. Blake Plavchak, really nice talking to you. Good to get to know something about you, and good luck in the next, the Allies versus the evil dark forces.
All right. Thank you so much.
City Talk will continue in a moment.
Hi, I'm Leah Friedman from the Office of Community Affairs, and we'd like you to sign up for our newsletter. We'll send you monthly email updates on citywide projects, public meetings, programs and services, and volunteer and engagement opportunities. All you need to do is go to newsletter.pittsburghpa.gov and sign up. If you have any questions, please give us a call at 412-255-4773. Thank you.
Welcome back to City Talk. One of the more interesting jobs within the city of Pittsburgh, at least I think, is to be a 311 operator. These are the people who take all the comments, questions, and complaints about non-emergency items as part of the Department of Innovation and Performance. And one of the operators, Drew Sansone, joins us right now. Drew, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, John.
Good to be. So are we talking to you from your apartment or your secret lair? Or?
I'm actually in a house. I have 7 roommates.
No kidding. How did you manage to not kill each other during COVID?
Oh, we're all kind of reclusive. We very much stay in our own rooms.
Well,
And everyone works from home or goes to school from home, so it works out pretty well.
Awesome. And it sounds like everybody's minding their P's and Q's about being safe, so everybody's healthy.
Yeah, very much. I'm grateful for that.
So a lot of the people we talk to are native Pittsburghers or people who leave and come back because it's a law that you have to come back, apparently, if you're from here. But you are not from here originally. Tell us a little bit about your story, where you're from, and how you ended up here.
Correct. I am actually originally from Miami, Florida, and I moved here because of an internship that I had with the Sustainability and Resilience Department of Innovation and Performance. And then after I ended that internship, we basically went right into COVID. So I was very fortunate to have this job in the meantime.
So what had you been planning to do as opposed to this job before COVID struck?
Finding a career job with my bachelor's in physics or going back to grad school.
So tell us about the different kinds of calls you get at 311 from all kinds of people, I'm sure.
We get anything from problem properties to anything that would involve illegal parking, permitted parking, basically anything non-emergency that the city handles.
Do you know more about city government than you'd ever thought you'd know? Because you have to, if you don't know it, you have to look it up so you can tell these people what's what.
So with my internship with the Sustainability and Resilience Department, I learned a lot about what entities existed in city government and how they all shake hands. And now I learned more or less just how these different parts of the government operate and what they do and what they handle in a more in-depth process. So if that really translates over to most municipalities, I would feel very much more in tune with how city government works, or even local government.
Are people crankier, do you think, because we're all cooped up and losing our minds? In other words, have the calls become increasingly irritable?
I think cranky is a tough word to give the constituents, specifically just because that I think everyone's kind of in an unsettled time. There's people that need to eat, there's people that need a place to live, and to say that, you know, they're cranky is less than harsh. I think that these people are scared for their own well-being.
That is accurate, very diplomatic, and it's why you're on the 311 and they won't let me near it. Congratulations. But you're also getting calls about people who might be on one side or the other, like, we like the protesters, we don't like the protesters, we like the police, we don't like the police. And that's sort of a different kind of 311 call.
So there are calls that we do take to forward onto the mayor's office, and whether people have their opinions on how the city should operate. And we forward those calls onto the mayor's office to address them as the mayor and his office see fit.
Yeah, so they can get some actual feedback from actual humans. And so you write up brief reports?
They can be lengthy. We just write verbatim whatever the caller says and send that to the mayor's office.
But some people, whatever they're upset about, will yell at you as if it's your fault, and one of your jobs is to not take the bait and to keep calm.
I will tell you is I think Starbucks was a much more tough job on dealing with customers who were very angry. I worked at Starbucks in college.
Do you enjoy this kind of work?
I very much enjoy helping people. It's one of the reasons why I want to work myself in sustainability and resilience. I very much have a collectivism approach to society. And I think that helping people help people is a good way to live.
Well, you were born to work in government, and I mean that as a compliment. Tell people who don't know what it is, what sustainability and resilience. I mean, they might know what the words mean, but what does it mean in the context of what you're saying?
So the environment is dying, and sustainability is sustaining the resources that we have specifically left on Earth, whether they're renewable, like solar, wind, hydroponic, and then resilience is how cities are currently planning and adapting to any kind of catastrophic events that may happen within the city's area. So whether that be like in California with wildfires, the plans that they have in place, those are resilience plans. And then when you look at solar farms, those are sustainability plans.
And you're also very much into solar energy, correct?
Yes, I did my own independent funded research in college using solar panel research.
And what did you determine, or what did you find?
So I developed an algorithm to track the sun on a dual axis tracker to make solar panels more efficient.
I realize you're doing it for the good of the universe, but might there also be money in that?
Private or public?
Wherever you can get your hands on it. I guess
Exactly.
we'll find
I'll
out.
take a job anywhere.
Exactly. Okay. So is that that's what you'll get back to whenever COVID is over and whenever you decide to move on from being a 311 operator?
Yes, actually. Without working in Pittsburgh, I probably would have never looked at colleges up here, but the University of Pittsburgh has a sustainable engineering MS degree that I've been very much looking into. And I definitely wouldn't have even thought about this school without working here first.
All right. So other than being trapped by COVID, it might end up being a lucky break. We'll see how things work out.
Yeah, who knows?
But you do have a degree from a school in Florida, right?
Correct. Stetson University. It's a private school about 20 minutes west of Daytona Beach. And
what's the degree in?
Physics.
All right. So much more suited to your solar work and sustainability, et cetera. How are you coping in general, though, with COVID, as we're all a little bit arguably stir crazy?
Well, I can tell you if they didn't pause my federal student loans, we would be having a much different conversation.
Oh, so you don't have to start paying them back until some point in the future.
I believe it's January is when the predicted is that they're going to start the payment process again.
But we've already talked about your calm demeanor. That must aid in just coping with COVID as well.
I like to just plan a lot. I will make it regardless.
Good for you. But I guess none of us knows when this, in other words, you're not going to apply to continue your education until things let up considerably because, well, a lot of places aren't even taking applicants, I guess. Go ahead.
I think it's something as well that I know a lot of either my friends still in school or working through their masters they are still having in-person classes. And as much as I want to get sick, well, I don't. So I wouldn't want to attend a university currently. And I know that universities do have a lot of health plans in place, and they have threshold limits on whether they would cancel classes after they hit a certain amount of cases. There are plans, but it's just not a risk I'm willing to take.
Very sensible, at least in my opinion. So is that pretty much what you want to be when you grow up, a solar panel producer and more efficiently and better, that works better for the average human?
Well, specifically, I would just like to do my part in making sure that future generations have a place to exist.
Fair enough. And good luck talking with all the fine folks in Pittsburgh with whom you communicate on a daily basis.
They're always a pleasure.
That is this edition of City Talk. We will see you next time.